when you yada yada? I think we all remember exactly where we were when we yada yada because it was real and spectacular, and the 13-second drive and overtime which spawned the rule change and the highest form of offensive football maybe we've ever seen. They can't repeat that Sunday, can they? This is the most excited I've been for a regular season game in a long time. This game is about last year. This game is about this year. This game has Buffalo favored on the road, David Dennis Jr. What will this game be about?
Well, first, just yesterday, Reality, you were saying that last night's game couldn't be as bad as the week before.
Yes, I did say that. You got me. Yes.
Yeah, so I feel really good about this being the greatest game of all time. Again, thanks. No, I think this is about Buffalo. They can be avenging what they did in the playoffs, but most importantly, this is about them being able to have home field advantage in the playoffs and actually host a game against Kansas City, which can make a huge difference. And in terms of what's on the field, I think this is about those two secondaries, namely what Buffalo can do to that Kansas Chiefs secondary. The Chiefs are 27th in allowing passes of 15 or more yards per play, and Josh Allen just happens to be fourth most in yards per pass. So this is a recipe for the Bills to put up a lot of points and have just enough defense for the Chiefs not to be able to keep up.
Sarah Spain, what decides this game?
He's going secondary. I'm going trenches because we've got two quarterbacks that are 1 and 2 in EPA per dropback. You've got two MVP candidates. We know that they can kill you when they scramble. We know that they can kill you when you blitz. The Chiefs' defense is 24th in pressure rate when they don't blitz. If they decide that they need to blitz to get pressure on Josh Allen, he's going to dice them up. Meanwhile, you look at a Bills front that is much better. You've got Rousseau looking fantastic. You've got Von Miller up there. They will not have to blitz as much to pressure Patrick Mahomes, and they won't allow him to get all of that EPA on scrambles that we've seen him do. He scored over a touchdown in their last meeting in points at EPA just on scrambling. So this is
all right. You are setting the record for most times using EPA in a sentence since a conference somewhere in the world about the ecology and the environment. Bob Ride, I'll bring you in here.
Hey, fair.
Okay. I see a game in which, though they have the same record, 4-1, they shoot it differently. I see a game in which one team has given up twice as many points as the other. Twice as many. I said, did I mention how many points they gave up? Twice as many. Okay. So, but what I do, and you know which team that was. That was Kansas City. Now, I also see a quarterback battle that we are all salivating over. We're talking about the guy who's the gold standard of our time against the new kid on the block who is averaging well over 300 yards a game right now. And I'm looking at that. I'm looking at a shootout, and that's that. And I just think that it's Buffalo's time has come. They're better team.
Fourth time these two have met in the last 2 calendar years. All of them have been in Kansas City, which is like, okay, sure schedule. Israel Gutierrez, Buffalo the favorite. How is this game decided?
Well, in a sense, Tony, this is about last year's game in that it seemed like in the offseason they wanted to fix things to better match up against that team, right? Kansas City revamped their secondary. Buffalo revamped their defensive line. And this game is effectively going to be about which of those units probably does better, to fix those respective areas. Because if Patrick Mahomes has all day back there, then obviously he's going to be able to create. He's the one guy without that Tyreek Hill cheat code who has to adjust the most, right, and create more time. On the other side, if that Chiefs secondary, if they can sort of hold things in that back line together, then maybe they keep Josh Allen to dump off passes. And yes, he can absolutely kill you with, sort of extending a play and just keeping those dump off alive. But it's the better way to beat him. That's how the Dolphins have beaten him. But in the end, this is about who's the best team in the AFC, with all due respect to the rest of the teams. It seems like right now that team is Buffalo. Look at who they've beat and look at that one team that they lost could have easily been a win. Seems like this is Buffalo's game.
You've got Buffalo. Bob Ryan, who you got?
I got Buffalo.
David Dennis Jr.
Buffalo.
And Sarah Spain.
Bills.
Oh,
we just jinxed them.
All 4. EPA. We move on. Cowboys, Eagles. Cowboys all week suggesting they were expecting Cooper Rush to start, but Dak Prescott has gone from throwing footballs left-handed to throwing footballs right-handed and is in, quote, regeneration mode, Mike McCarthy said. Philly 5-0 and rolling. This is the most excited I've been for a regular season game in 30 seconds. Cowboys. Oh, DeMarcus Lawrence on Jalen Hurts being maybe the most impressive player or quarterback this season. Quote, has he played against us? All right then, end quote. Sarah, what will this game be about?
Well, we can stop with the Dak Cooper talk because Cooper completed 10 passes last week in that win. They've got a 27th ranked offense. This is all about the Cowboys D, and that's what's going to come into play in this game as well. I hate to bring back the stat that you're sick of hearing about, but let's just set the stage for how Jalen Hurts has been so successful. He's faced the 31st ranked schedule of defenses thus far. He will now be facing a Cowboys defense with a tremendous pass rush, and Jalen Hurts is 27th in EPA per dropback when he's blitzed and 5th when he's not. If they get that pressure up in his face and they make it difficult for him, this is the ultimate challenge for us to really see who Jalen Hurts can be. He's gotten most of his touchdowns with his legs. He's setting incredible records doing that. But what can he do with the pass, and how does he react against a really good defense?
Sarah, can you talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old? EPA? Exactly. Please, go ahead.
Expected points. It's basically like if you took this play against all the different, taking into context who they're throwing against, the context of the game, everything else, the expected points, and are they above or below that? And if you're above, it's better, and if you're below, it's worse.
I'm so proud of you right now that you're able to do it on the spot. Yes, David Dennis Jr., go ahead.
Say that again, Sarah. I'm trying to jot this. No, I think EPA is a little bit, that's fine, but we're going to go DVOA here because the Cowboys are 18th in DVOA against the rush. Even though they do have a great pass rush, they're against running, they're not as good. And the Eagles have, they play on all the offense. They can pass, they can run. If the Cowboys allowed 80 yards to Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts is going to, carve them up on the run game. I think that can be a big difference. And in terms of Cooper Rush, if he's not going to put up 30 points, I don't think that they can beat this Eagles team.
And, of course, now the same question to you, David. Talk to me like I'm 5 years old. What is DVOA?
Sarah?
Defense adjusted value over average. How dare you? You see, I never asked a question I don't know the answer to already, Dave.
Okay, what does ESPN stand for? We all know the
Gutierrez.
first one.
Enough from both of you guys, please.
Mine's a little bit more simple. RUN. Which team will be able to run the ball more? Because, as David mentioned, that Dallas rush defense not as good as the pass defense. And that's what the Eagles are built on. It's the run game, not just to actually get the run game going with Sanders and actually Hurts there, but to give Hurts some more time in the passing game. And you flip it to the other side. What has allowed Cooper Rush to be the game manager that he has been? It's the running game. It's Tony Pollard finally exploding for big chunks of plays as well. Whichever one of those two units gets off the most, chunk plays, if you will, is probably going to end up winning this thing because I think these two teams are a little bit closer than you would think, even with Cooper.
So you see Philly's run game having the ability to kind of take control a little bit, even though that defense is so good. You can run on that defense a little bit easier.
They're not just going to let Jalen Hurts sit back there in the pocket and allow the Dallas Cowboys rush to just eat him alive. They're going to utilize his legs and their running game to just make things more.
And Bob Ryan, what decides this game?
I think that Hurts is really playing well, and I do think that he's going to have a chance to test Mr. Lawrence and company. He's going to get his job done in running. But the thing is this, that defense at Dallas, I keep staring at it, at those numbers. 3 touchdowns in 3 weeks, haven't given up 20 points all year. It's got to be for real. I'm sorry, I don't care who you play.
It's not just about the pass. That's about the entire offense, and they're not letting up touchdowns. You got Dallas, or you got Philly in this one, Bob?
I got Dallas.
Gutierrez?
I think I'm going with Dallas.
Did you just make up your mind on this? You're surprised I even asked you the question? David, who you got? No.
Eagles. Superior
Philly.
DVOA.
All right. We've been horn. We'll move on. Washington, Chicago last night. Were you not entertained? There was drama at the end, people. I know. Brian Robinson having the play of the game after coming back from being shot 2 months ago. That was amazing for him. But let's talk about Ron Rivera after the game.
It's been hard. It really has. You lose 4 games in a row, and everybody wants to get you, just get on you. Everybody keeps wanting to say, I didn't want anything to do with Carson. Well, I'm the guy that pulled out the sheets of paper, that looked at the analytics, that watched the tape in the when we were at Indianapolis. Okay? And that's what pisses me off. Because the young man doesn't deserve to have that all the time. I'm sorry, I'm done.
And he walked off. Sarah Spain, how do you hear that?
Well, I hear a second straight year that a head coach is left defending and owning up to wanting a quarterback. And I don't know if it's even true here, at least with Frank Reich. I believed it here. I think he's just being the meat shield that he's been since he arrived in Washington. For every possible conflict that faces them, they throw out Ron Rivera at it, and here he is again.
Mm-hmm. David Dennis Jr., that was the winning coach there. Walk it off like that. How do you hear it?
I hear like a team that's in disarray. As much as I want to blame Ron Rivera for starting this by saying their problem was quarterback last week, the whole franchise is answering for all of the missteps that Dan Snyder's doing. Everybody should just scream and curse and storm off instead of having to answer for something that they had nothing to deal with.
Mm-hmm. But they did have something to do with this, right? They selected Carson Wentz to be the starting quarterback of this team, knowing what he is and what he isn't. And he went out and said in front of an open microphone what he said last week, David.
Yeah, but I mean, from what we've learned, it seems like that was a Dan Snyder decision. Everybody has to answer for it and just kind of make up for what happened at the top, which is what is the story of the Commanders for years.
Gutierrez, how do you hear the victor last night?
I just imagine a political cartoon with Ron Rivera stretched out and protecting the entire organization here. He's even defending himself against himself because he's the one who started this whole mess with Carson Wentz with that whole quarterback comment this week. So I'm not sure. It seemed like an obvious PR move by him.
Brian?
I'm not a psychologist, nor do I play one on television, but I'm here to say that's a man under stress, all right? Period. Stress. It's just that whole awful, dysfunctional organization thing collapsing on him, period. Even after a win.
Even after a win. Sarah Spain, you want to break down the game? I know you were watching close.
I don't know. Should we call PIs ever or no? What about, should we get some people who can catch a darn ball so your quarterback doesn't get blamed for everything? I don't know, maybe. Garbage.
Wheel route was open.
12-7 final in 2022. We're taking a break. Byers on the other side. Wasn't a score.
Will be very important, but that offense versus defense, I'm going to drill down on that to the turnover margin specifically. Bama 12th in the conference at a -6 for the season. Tennessee tops in the conference at +5. Hooker hasn't thrown an interception since last November. If they're careful with the ball, I think the Tennessee offense.
Oh my goodness, that's such a jinx. Whenever you hear an announcer say, "Oh, they haven't done this in so long."
Yeah.
David Dennis Jr.
Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, I'm buying Tennessee's offense here being a huge problem for Alabama, especially if Bryce Young, who does not seem to be 100%, and Milroe seems to be a deer in headlights against those, against those big stadiums and big, games. Hooker is the real deal. Then, to Sarah's point about turnovers, Tennessee's +5 in TDs. Alabama's -6 in TDs this season. I'm going Tennessee.
You're going Tennessee in the game. All right. Israel, I know you never considered I would ask you that question, but start there.
Yeah, it's such a weird question. No, but I'm buying the speed of Tennessee's offense. Not only do they play quickly from play to play, but Hooker gets the ball out of his hands quickly. It's going to be hard for Alabama defense to pressure him. I do think, though, you don't just turn over these 15-year losing streaks to dominant teams just like that. So Tennessee has to feel really comfortable, get off to an early start. If they don't get off to an early, great start, I think Alabama wins this one, of course, if Bryce Young.
Brian.
This is not a vintage Alabama team. It's coasting on reputation. I think the world's going to find that out tomorrow when Hendon Hooker and company beat them.
That's with Bryce Young or only if he's not playing? Does everybody have Tennessee in this game?
Regardless.
Yeah.
Tennessee. Wow, unanimous again. Oh, man, this is like another jinx. We'll move on. When Yordan Alvarez hit a home run in Game 1, I said it's the first playoff walk-off when your team was down multiple runs ever. You guys couldn't believe it. So when he hit the home run in Game 2, with his team trailing, to excavate the souls of Mariner fans and give Houston the 2-0 lead, what did you think, David, by yourself?
I'm buying Seattle's chances here. It's hard for me to imagine them losing their first game at home in forever. And now that they're walking Alvarez, who was responsible for 7 of the first 11 RBI, I think the Astros may take a little while to adjust. I don't think this one is over.
So you don't think it's over. You still like Seattle's chances in Game 3, and then moving forward, pitch around Alvarez? Because it's only been 2 pitches, basically, they've been hurt on all. Israel Gutierrez, how about you?
Yeah, but that pitch was low and outside, and he still went oppo with it. So now you have no choice. Now you've got to treat him like Barry Bonds. You got to walk him all the time, keep him out of the equation, and then you got to give yourself a chance at home.
Bob, is it that simple for you? Pitch around Alvarez, and Seattle still got a chance in the series?
Well, you got to be judicious with Alvarez, but in general terms here, I like Seattle's chances of keeping this going because, this, as you said, there are only 2 pitches to separate this, and that line drive last night that went right at the first baseman could have changed a lot. And there's not, that's baseball, I understand. They got a chance.
Sarah Spain, how about you?
Well, they got to get Mina Kimes out there to start another win streak because last time she threw out the first pitch, that was it for the Mariners. That was all they needed. And I'm definitely not someone who usually runs away, but I'm running away from Jordan. I am absolutely not pitching to him. Make someone else beat you.
You know, when you autocorrect corrects your text, Jordan Alvarez, it corrects Jordan to your dad. And it has been that
me,
case.
Jordan.
Your
For me,
dad.
Jordan,
Yeah, that's
every
been the
time.
case. We'll move
Jordan,
on. Fire
every
Cell 3. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips wants to expand March Madness for the men's and women's basketball tournament. No cut downs on the automatic qualifiers, but expanding the at-large field for programs investing substantial resources is how he phrased it. Israel, buy or sell?
I would sell. It sounds like you're just giving spots to people who spend more money, never mind if they are better basketball teams. That just seems like the rich getting richer, and we never needed this for the tournament anyway.
Bob Ryan?
If this thing comes to pass, I hope and pray there will be a special place in hell for anyone who had anything to do with perpetrating this. If anything, the tournament should go back to 64. I have spoken.
Whoa. I have spoken.
Tell us how you really feel, Bob Ryan. Sarah Spain.
Yeah, I'm against this. So I don't think you need to add. And I also think what usually happens in these cases is people do not project out the deleterious effects on other sports at those schools and women's sports at those schools when we continue to push for individual men's sports to spend even more.
But think of it this way. There's more than 330 teams who are in play for it, and only 68 make it. That's less than a quarter, David. Can you see expansion in that regard?
No, I'm selling this as the only panelist here who was at a mid-major when it made an Elite 8 run. Adding more rounds makes these Cinderella stories less possible. So keep it at where it's at now so we can have more of these heartwarming, wonderful, unforgettable, legendary stories.
Of course, David's son is where David went. He's also a David son. His father's name is David. He's also a Dennis son. You could have been Dennison as well. I mean, I don't know what we did there. I have no idea. Israel Gutierrez, Bob Ryan. Showdown next.
Great in its first 3 games, not so great in its last 3 wins. What do you need to go into Michigan and win? You need a quarterback with 10 years experience like Sean Clifford. I got Penn State going in there and upsetting it.
All right, and Bob?
First of all, neither one's beating Ohio State, but I have my eye here on J.J. McCarthy, who was leading the country at 78% passing completion, but he may have to step it up and throw a little more down the field against a very good Penn State rush.
In order to have experience, 10 years, some of the experiences aren't that good, though. I mean, that's the problem, Israel. But I'm giving the point to Gutierrez. We'll move on. Some more cat age. Oklahoma State TCU, NC State Syracuse. Undies will go down this weekend. That sounded better in my head. Which undefeated do you feel best about? And who's most vulnerable, Bob Ryan?
Well, I feel best about USC. I want them back in the mix. I want to hear that song. I love Fight On for USC. And they're going to go up against a tough Utah team. But I like what Lincoln Riley's doing out there.
Israel?
What's real vulnerable is the over-under in the Oklahoma State TCU game. Both of those teams average 46 points a game. And to top that off, both of those defenses are terrible. So I'm going to go with TCU at home because they're at home.
Both of those average 46. What is the over-under? What's the number? Is it like 90?
I think the number's still like at 70
Whoa!
something. But
Israel with news
90.
you can use. FaceTime. Gutierrez.
Well, thank you, Tony. The Dolphins play the Vikings in Miami this weekend, and Teddy Bridgewater is still in concussion protocol because of an imperceptible stumble, but Kirk Cousins is not. And I bring that up because the NFL put out a video this week on social, which clearly showed Cousins with a brief fencing response after a hit against the Bears. And the only reason I bring that up is because should we be able to put players in concussion protocol based on video after the fact? Because if it's about player safety, Kirk Cousins should absolutely be in concussion protocol this week.
Thank you for that, Israel Gutierrez. That's it for today. We're on a 71.5-hour break. See you Monday.
Happy Hour is presented